Coach Massi here from M2 Speed, Strength and Performance, Massi Machado Strength and Conditioning, with another episode of Move Your Feet. And today we're going to answer another email from one of our viewers. And he says, "Dear Coaches Massi, I watched a few of the dead stall force and offset loading videos on your library. I decided to purchase the light blue Tsunami Bar and was wondering if you might have a couple of unique exercises that can be performed in a relatively small training studio. Anything that focuses on or incorporates the core within those principles would be greatly appreciated." This is from Marco DeLeo, and it just says DTS. I'm not sure if that's DTS training, what that might mean, but Marco DeLeo, always remember, put your company name, even if you do this stuff part-time, please let us know so we give you a shout-out. So one thing to address real quick, one component, one element I'm kind of a stickler about. People say the core, and I understand what you're saying. I say apples have a core, and the core is like only that big. We are humans. As humans, we have the trunk or the torso, and I like to see how that trunk torso relates to movement in your extremities or your limbs. So we're going to take a look at what Marco's request was today. And he said the light blue Tsunami Bar, which I believe he's referring to would be the SG50, because you can put up to a total of 50 pounds on that bar. So we're going to have a little fun today. We're going to take a look at a couple of exercises, or actually a progression of one exercise that we like to call the Tsunami Bar rear stepping active split squat. Sometimes there's a little bit of a debate between what's a split squat, what's a lunge, but we like to think vertical here. So I'm going to call Coach Matt in, and we're going to have a little fun with this. And as usual, I'm sorry I said as usual, I did not tell Matt a lot about today's episode. We're going to have some fun with him. We're going to creep up this progression, but you do know what movements we're talking about. I'm going to actually regress it a little bit. I know that you work with more of the athletes, but we're going to show you some ways that we can also utilize it for your workforce, home force clients, and even some of your older clientele, which is really, really cool. So I'm just going to ask Matt to step off frame real quick, turn off all our air filters. We have 4 in the room that we sort of cycle the air through, and they make a little background noise. But while he's doing that, before he comes back, I do want to emphasize, you can use the movements we're about to perform with really any of your population. And this particular movement that we're concentrating on today doesn't necessarily translate to an actual rigid barbell, because it just wouldn't be safe in my opinion. So that's why we're just answering the question strictly for what the question is. And we're going to talk about that light blue Tsunami Bar that Marco referred to purchasing recently. So we're going to go into this as Matt gets back on frame and take a look at these 2 bars that we have here. So Matt, let's grab the actual lighter bar that Marco's not referring to. I call this the noodle, but we're going to take this, it's like a teal looking bar, and I'm going to get out of the way a little bit, and I'm going to start to coach from over here. So the first thing we do for this, before we get to the progression of this exercise, is we start at the regression. Now, Matt is offset loading this. You know we're big on offset loads. He's got a rear offset load. Already some of the great things you can play with. If you have older clientele, or you just have work or home force clients that are just starting out, you can do a lot just from this position. Matt's fulcrum can be adjusted. So Matt, slide it back. Okay, so as you see, now Matt's kind of having to carry that, adjust his trunk here, get tight through there. Matt, pull it back this way, make it less aggressive. Slide your hands in. So just from this standing position, even if you're going to make people take walks around the room, you can adjust that fulcrum and you can get a pretty good look. What else we like to take a look at here is that horizontal line. But Matt has it what I would call a pretty neutral look. He's not really, beating himself up on it. I would ask that he comes back a little bit more to offset that load, and he has to slide his hands forward because it's going to make it a little bit more difficult for him. And as you can already see, the degree of difficulty required him to basically get to attention, engage that trunk, and get prepared. So the very, very first thing, or first movement we're going to make with this is going to be a simple rearward split squat. So go ahead, Matt. Just come on down, stand up. Boom. Now, I'm going to make sure that I'm cueing him on his angles. I'm going to tell him to stand tall. And we're actually going to do an entire cueing and coaching video coming up down the line. So, Matt, we're going to stand super tall. We're going to be big. Let's go back slow and hold it at the bottom. So now I'm going to look here. I'm going to tell him, okay, touch down your knee. Now, give me less of a shin angle up front, which means pop your foot out. Good. So this is the position I'm looking for. Even if you were to start your clients from here, that would be a great spot to tell them, powerfully stand. Boom. And you see he has to manage and he has to get that back. So that's just the regular single leg split squat stand. Let's do that one more time. Rearward split squat. Go down and then up. Adjust that shin angle, down, vertical plumb line, and then up. Good. So that one he had flat there. Perfect. Now, we'll have him re-engage. We're going to have him come to attention. This time he's just going to simply alternate it. Even though it's offset loaded on this side, he's going to alternate that rearward split squat. Go ahead, Matt. Give it a shot. Boom. Boom. Right. And you're going to want to start to make sure that he doesn't decompensate in that shin angle. It's very important to me to get a pure plumb split squat out of this movement because I want to see that the person's able to just drive into a little bit of that back toe and power straight up. So Matt, let's do that alternating one more time. Perfect. Oh, there you go. You see some power right there. So Matt's got a little power there. It's a little too light for him, which brings me to my next point. Matt, why don't we just switch bars and get that light blue bar that Marco was talking about? Add a little bit more of a degree of difficulty. And also a note to you guys, if people are kind of just starting out and they have tender knees, some people don't like to make ground contact with their knees. I prefer that you just kind of hover the ground anyway and you don't make contact. Just slip a lawn and garden pad under there if that's all you have, or buy a nice little RX mat. They'll make you good to go. So now, as you see, Matt's already battling. You know, a little kyphotics. He's got to stand tall here. Drag down on the bar. So now this is where you're going to tell, right? You're going to tell your client or athlete, we're going to drag down, we're going to pull down on that bar, we're going to apply tension, we're going to come to attention, and let's just do a single leg. Step back and up. Good. And you see that thing's going to pull him off base. He's got to overcome a little bit of an impulse force, a little bit of angle of deflection, and again, go. So honestly, just a couple of more pounds, kind of wacky. Okay, let's alternate now. Ready? Boom, come on. Now push through the ground, stand tall, be big. Again, and rest. Now, as you can see, you can relax. As you can see, Matt actually had a pause there. So you also have the variable of pausing every other rep. So you hit one leg, then you hit the other, and you pause. This way you make sure they come back to plumb and vertical, and they have complete command of the bar. Complete command of the bar. Let's go back to the lighter bar. And now we're going to get into what some people call as a rifle or active type stand. And the reason they call it a rifle type stand is because it looks like somebody's standing tall if they're like on a drill team. I like to use the more friendly term of like the flag stand. So what Matt's going to show you is the starting position first. If somebody can't manage this little bit of weight, 5 pounds on this lighter, the ultralight bar, then they probably should have no weight on it. Because in the position you're in now, you're having to engage your trunk, right? Otherwise that's going to kind of fall forward. So this one's going to be a single leg, active flag, step back. Go ahead. And control it. Yeah, so you see, it's a little light for Matt, but that's good because as he gets back up to the top, he has to draw down, engage that trunk, and make sure that that bar doesn't run away from him coming out of that impulse force phase. Give it another shot, Matt. Boom, and control it right up top. There you go, bite. That's okay if that thing bends, as long as they get it racked right back without any degree of difficulty, I'm happy, he's good to go. Matt, let's give it the alternating look now. And go. 1. Good. And again, go. 1. Come up. And boom. Good. And rest. So the issue that Matt actually encountered there was the resistance is a little too low. It's a little too light for him. So we're going to have him step up onto the light blue bar again. And we're going to put that movement in place. Some of your cueing, coaching points, you can rest because I'll talk for a sec. You want to make sure that your client or your athlete understands what's going on, that they're generating dead stall force. They're coming right out of the ground. You want to make sure that they understand, let's slow this down to where we can remain erect, we can remain in a vertical, a plumb line, and we have command over your anatomical components. The biomechanics are very important in this. I know you had mentioned to me that the other week you were working this with somebody who's a pretty good athlete, and you said they were fading and they were veering. And that's something that can happen if the client or athlete tries to jump into this too quickly and get that repetitive force going, right, that power, and they just don't have command of the movement. That's not what this movement's designed for. This movement's designed to get you out of the hole. It's really good for jumping. It's really good for takeoffs. We have at least 20 different variations that help for sprint testing, coming out of the blocks or coming out of the hole. But you really have to have command of this first. You're always going to be checking your collars. And Matt, let's see you translate this little bit elevation in the resistance to show them how you have to overcome a little bit more of that force impulse. Because when Matt drops that, and you know, this is where your variables are and how you're playing around. Like, that's aggressive. His hand position right now is aggressive. Take this hand up here a little bit more. That's a less aggressive hand position. I even want to see him at that. Okay, let's go with the single leg first. Do 2 reps. 1, then right down. Go. Bang! And rest. Control it. Bite it. Pull it back in. Good. Now we're going to go alternating. Hit it, Matt. Bang! And up. Bang! And up and rest. And bite it and rest. Good job. So look, you can play around with these movements as much as you'd like. Be creative. We're actually not done, Matt. Don't go anywhere. I have a surprise for you. If you would like to add a layer of misery to this, let's grab this slider. So we're actually going to start with the regression of this movement. And all we're going to do is Matt's going to load up the lighter bar again. Yes. And he's going to go back to the original movement. This, in and of itself, is going to be a challenge. And the reason we like this, so relax a second, man. The reason we like this one is just to maintain contact with that slider throughout the movement, you are going to have to be pushing down through that slider. You're going to have some flexor involvement, some really nice eccentric hamstring control, and some glute activation, even just in the regular step back. Let's take a look at that, Matt. Just the regular step back lunge. Go ahead. I should say step back split squat, sorry. And when you get down here, let's rest again. We're going to keep checking this. Check your front leg. Let me get out of the way so they can see here. Good. Now, drag it back up. Right. One more time. And up. Great. And rest. Okay. You can add sliders on both sides. You can add sliders to the rifle movement or the flag movement, the active flag movement. Remember, in general, the regression to the progression, and also remember that you can play with alternating it or just dropping it back. As you can see, we changed our locations by request here. Some of the folks had sent us in some emails and said, can you do us a favor? Change the angle a little bit. We'd like to see some more of the place. So we're in our north facility. We're excited to give you a little bit of a shot of the other side of the room, and we'll keep moving around as we go here. But you know what? Play around with this. If you can get one of these bars, that'd be great. It's applicable to all of your demographics. And if you can start to imagine now, you don't have to start at the top. You could start at the bottom of the movement. You could easily reinforce and coach split squat versus lunge and really help your people to understand your language. So until next time, this is Coach Massi here from M2 Speed, Strength, and Performance, Massi Machado Strength and Conditioning, with another episode of Move Your Feet. Greatness is forged, not fabricated, and that's your day.